In this week's episode of On My Shelf, I'm talking about Daniel Handler's newest book, Katherine Applegate's newest book, New York Times bestselling author Michael Hyatt, how we're completely failing at keeping up with school, choosing to write even on the weeks no one seems to be listening, and obsessively watching Game of Thrones. I run a book club that meets once a month in a music school to talk about books and life and everything in between. Book clubs are a good thing for the soul, I think. This month, we chose to read We Are Pirates by Daniel Handler, who is the creator of the pen name Lemony Snicket and the well-known series of Unfortunate Events. We Are Pirates is his newest adult novel, and all I can think to describe it is strangely brilliant. Handler writes lyrically and weirdly and beautifully all through the book. The characters are incredibly strange and yet real. He often writes social commentary in the middle of the narrative with sentences like, "We steal the happiness of others in order to be happy ourselves, and when it is stolen from us, we voyage desperately to steal it back. We are pirates." And another example, "You can swim as long and as hard as you like, but you will be giving up one life in order to save another." Just brilliant. His words resonate so deeply, even though these characters are so different than I am. That's the mark of a great author, when you can see your own story in their story. This is one of those books you'll have to go back and read again, because there's so many layers of meaning, and we can't possibly absorb them all until we've finished and we start again. I know I keep saying this, but it really was superbly written. I wish I could read the entire last 2 pages to you without any spoilers, but you'll just have to read it for yourself. Another book I recently enjoyed was Katherine Applegate's newest middle grade novel, Crenshaw. Crenshaw is an imaginary friend, a large cat, who comes back to visit a boy in 5th grade when fear of homelessness begins to settle over him again. It's a great way to talk about homelessness with children, and Applegate did a fantastic job of broaching a scary subject in a safe and entertaining way. The writing was beautiful, the characters were lovable, and the themes, family, love, and the belief that we can bounce back from anything that comes our way, are part of the reason I enjoy reading kidlit so much. I just got done watching Michael Hyatt's free video series on growing your platform. Hyatt is the author of the New York Times bestseller Platform, Get Noticed in a Noisy World. I read this book a few years ago and knew that Hyatt was someone to follow. In the years since, he has built Platform University, which is a membership-based site where people can chat and learn more about building a successful platform. If you don't know Hyatt yet, you definitely should. He has helpful blogs and podcasts, and he gives away an amazing amount of content. He is just an incredibly generous guy who believes in helping writers and artists and business people make the most of their influence and leadership. I've learned so much from him about branding and marketing and platform, all the things that I'll be working on in the coming year. And if you have something to share with the world, which I believe we all do, definitely check him out. You guys, we are totally failing at school right now. I say that jokingly, but in all seriousness, I honestly don't know how people keep up with all this stuff. My boys come home with all these papers to sign and things parents have to do, and we're just falling more and more behind. And that's just with 3 boys in school. I shudder to think what it's going to be like with 6 in school. But for now, we're just surviving, sending notes to teachers every other day for what we've forgotten. Soon, I'm going to start turning those notes into humor notes. So not only will you see how badly we're failing, you'll also be able to get a little entertainment out of it. I believe that humor is a great way to get through the hard parts of life. This week I finished up some loose ends on projects because I'm trying to clear my schedule for National Novel Writing Month, which happens every November. I've never joined the NaNoWriMo crowd, but I decided to this year because it's the first year I'm not working a full-time job, and why not? So I didn't log as many words as I normally would in a week, but I'm happy to say that one of the projects I finished up was a rough draft for a humor parenting book called The Life-Changing Madness of Tidying Up After Children, and I even had enough time to start writing a proposal for it, which I'll send out to agents once November is done. Also, I just have to say here, because I'm all about honesty, that I felt really invisible this week. My stats were low, my stuff wasn't really getting as many shares as it often does. Some followers on social media unfollowed me, and all of those hits can really pile up. I started looking at all of this work I've been doing on a daily basis, and I asked myself, what's really the point? No one's even paying attention. I think as writers, it's normal to go through weeks like this. We don't like them, but they happen. Of course, it's always fun when people are paying attention, but the mark of a successful writing career is what you do on the weeks no one is listening. I reminded myself of that, and then I turned on my computer and wrote again. Because at the heart of it, I don't do this writing for anyone else. I do it for me. I do it because if I didn't, I would be a much different person. Probably angrier, and less patient, and unfulfilled. Ben and I have been obsessively consuming Game of Thrones. We're now on the third season, and he's totally hooked. I've read all the books, so I know it's coming, and it probably doesn't help that after the episode ends, I'm all, oh man, it's coming. And he's all, what? And of course, I can't tell him because all of you who watch Game of Thrones or who have read the series know exactly what I'm talking about. It's coming. I found the television series remarkably close to the books. I love how they followed the storyline so closely, and I guess that's proof that George R. R. Martin is a great writer. When a story works for television and it doesn't have to be changed all that much, you've made it. I wish he would write a little faster, but I totally understand why he doesn't. I could not imagine keeping all of those characters and their storylines straight. For more about what I do and the projects I'm working on, sign up for my email newsletter. And remember, if you have any questions about writing or who I am or my family or whatever, leave them in the comments and I'll get to them in future episodes. For more on my shelf, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thank you for watching.